I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of the Town of Northeast to order and ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to ask for a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Ralph made the motion, Lance seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, welcome everybody to our first regular board meeting of the year. This, as you can all see, is something of the new administration here in Town Hall. We've got a lot on our plate for 2020. We're still finding our way, learning where the light switches are and so on. I'm sure that we will have our challenges and make mistakes and not get everything right. So have a little patience with us. I'm glad that everybody in Town Hall has really been swinging in and helping to get us off on the right note. I've got a couple of things that I wanted to update everybody about. Starting with the new highway garage project. This project is a three-phase project, starting with a storage building which was constructed during this last year and was completed before the end of the year. It's on Route 22, north of Irondale. I'm sure that many of you have seen it. It's gleaming. It's in very good shape. As I think people know, it is shared with the village. So it's a 4-bay structure, and one of the bays is dedicated to the village, and we've already turned over a key to the garage to the village for their use in that. And I had a meeting with the engineer on the project to look at the second phase of the project, which is the construction of a sand and salt building, which will be done this year in 2020. And then the actual highway garage is planned to be constructed in 2021. One of the bays in the structure is dedicated to the weed harvester that was purchased by the state for harvesting the weeds and cutting the weeds in Rudd Pond. As some of you know, the weed harvester was delivered to Rudd Pond last summer and was hard at work, working very well. It's an amazing, beautiful machine. And it is to be stored in the storage building. We've gotten word, it's been stored up until the structure was finished up at Rudd Pond, and we've gotten word from the state that not only do they want the right to tow it down to the storage building themselves, which we've been ready to do for a while, but now they've decided that they want to draft some liability language in case anything happens to the harvester, and that it may take them the rest of the winter to do that. So it's been, the engine has been winterized, it's been tarped up, it's sitting there. Storage building is ready for it, but we're waiting to hear from the state what they're gonna do about that. I think it's really an amazing commentary on government that sometimes things don't go the way they should. I want a quick update on the Community Development Block Grant Award. This was an award to make both Village Hall and this Town Hall ADA compliant. Due to the issues with the Village Hall, the village is not going to be proceeding with their renovations to Village Hall, and we've been concerned that that could affect the grant for the ADA modifications to this building. And we've been happy to tell you that we've been advised by the county that this does not affect our construction work going forward. So we will be issuing an RFP for the work on this building. And then lastly, a word about communication. It's something which many people have commented on, that they want to see more communication, more frequent communication from the town. And we are going to work on getting more active email out from town hall, emails, website updates, and so on and so forth. And I welcome individuals with ideas and abilities to help us communicate better. I see that we have village police department here, so maybe we could hear from you all.
How are you? Greetings, everybody. Pass these around for you. So we were about where we were last year. December was a quiet month. We got no special state allocated money for DWI patrols, so we had a couple less. That may or may not be, I think we had 2 less complaints this year than we had last year. And that, you'll see those in the bottom right of the list. And outside of that, there was nothing spectacular. There is one thing that I want to bring to your attention. As of January 1st, there's a new state law in place, which is going to cause all police departments a heck of a lot of extra paperwork. It's going to cause the district attorney's office a lot of paperwork. I'm just going to encourage you to look at the Bail Reform Act, which is very prevalent on the internet.
Right.
Again, there's a lot of things with that. It's a total changeover in the law and what has to be done in preparation of cases, et cetera. There's time limits, et cetera. So just wanted to bring that to your attention, that, if people see the police car at the station a little bit more, it's not by choice, it's by statute that we're going to have to spend some time and get things in a within a certain period of time, et cetera. So anyway, if anybody has any specific questions, they can email me. Your email should be the same.
It's the same as it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will try to forward you a couple of links that you can share with
I
the
would be happy to share with the board.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. And some people probably already know there's been a little bit on the news, not a lot. And I think people will be a little bit shocked when they learn the full ramifications of the law.
I've been seeing things, and I'm sure we'll be seeing some more.
Yep, and it could be modified over time, but right now, we have to, that's the law, and we have to abide by it, and hopefully, as time goes on, I think there probably will be changes. I think there's going to have to be, but it's going to consume a lot of police and judicial
court time.
Resources, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So, anyway, Happy New Year, everybody. Any questions?
Happy New Year.
Any issues that have come up that anybody's aware of or that we need to address? No?
That way.
Okay,
All right.
very good.
Thank you, Dave.
All right.
Happy New Year to you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Bob, you have a highway department?
I do.
Report.
So I have an agreement for the expenditure of highway monies for the board to consider. Looking to have section 1 approved to spend $230,000 on general repairs.
All right, this is, just to make sure you understand, this is monies that are in the budget for the highway department, but you are required to come to us and actually ask for authorization to spend it.
That's correct.
Right, so if anyone else has a question for Bob, otherwise, I'm going to take a motion to approve the agreement for the expenditure of highway monies. So.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. How are we doing on our sand and salt for the winter? We're partway through the winter now.
We're probably average at this point. The salt shed's full with a supply of sand salt mix. But there were probably average usage at this point. The 2 ice storms, of course, used a lot of sand and salt.
Right.
But that can't be helped.
Yeah. And the trucks are in decent
Trucks are
shape?
doing okay, a few normal wear and tear items, but
Okay.
nothing serious.
Good. Anyone else have questions for Bob? Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you.
The assessor does not have a report. Gail, your report of planning, zoning, building department was distributed to the board. And there is no committee activity yet, with one exception. We have an opening on the town board, which has to be filled by the town board. And this appointment is to fill the remainder of this year. This is actually for the seat which I vacated. There will be an election in November of this year for the final year of my term. And the winner of that election will serve the last year of my council term. The opening has been noted online on the website, at our reorganization meeting, and in my email blast. Several individuals have expressed their interest in being considered for the seat. The town board's personnel committee has had an opportunity to meet with and evaluate candidates and has unanimously recommended the appointment of George Kay. At a time of considerable transition in town government, and with the impending implementation of the recently passed comprehensive plan, and especially with a major construction project underway for the town's highway garage, it is a unique opportunity to take advantage of the many years of George's experience with each of these things. I am grateful for George's willingness to serve. I'm also very grateful for other people's expressions of interest. In a small town like ours, it can be hard to find people who are willing to step up and serve even on the board or on committees and so on. And I hope that we can find a way to involve everyone going forward. Ralph, do you have a motion?
Yes, I do. I'm honored to nominate George Kay to fill the vacant position. George is an amazing guy. I've had the honor and the pleasure to work with George. I've learned quite a bit from him. George is a bridge builder. Literally, he has a unique talent to reach out to get people to work for us. The village, in the town, in the county, and in the state. And I think George is going to add quite a bit to our board and help us in the transition that we're looking forward to. So I nominate George.
Do we have a second for that?
I second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? In that event, George is appointed to serve on the town board, and I would like to just move right along and swear him in at this time. He's only going to have 12 meetings, so we might as well take advantage of having him for this one. So George, if you would come up here, Gail has an oath of office, and so if you, raise your right hand and we'll swear you in.
Raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, George Kay, do solemnly swear
I, George Kay, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of town councilman
the duties of town councilman
of the town of Northeast
of the town of Northeast
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Thank you very much,
I think I've occupied a few different places.
The next thing on our list is the approval of a dog kennel contract with Pine Plains Veterinary Associates. This is a contract which we have with the Pine Plains Veterinary Associates for dogs that are, stray dogs that are picked up by the dog control officer. And it's the same contract that we have had last year. And it provides for $22 a day for the care of dogs that are picked up. So I'd like to have a motion to authorize me to sign the contract.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. I want to give everyone an update on the Winchell Mountain issue. We've had a number of people who've expressed concern about the speed of vehicles on Winchell Mountain. And there have been accidents also that have taken place, some quite recently, on that road. And there's been a request for the town to fund a speed study, which is, we believe was required by the state. There's more than one issue with Winchell Mountain Road. One is speed and driveways, which have limited sight distance. And Bob has gone out and done an inventory of the different driveways with limited sight distance. I drove it this afternoon just to look at them and see what there was. And there definitely are some driveways with very impaired view of the road, and particularly ones that are on a curve or right after a curve, where it's hard for them to see what's coming. But another issue is the steepness of the road and the fact that it's a northeast-facing road, which means that in the wintertime, it does get icy and stay icy. And there are some driveways which come down onto the road and which drain onto the road. So there are a number of factors besides speed. We have talked about conducting a speed study, but I found out that the state of New York would like to have a speed study, but has not yet actually completely mandated it. And we've learned from the town of Ankrum, they did some research on this, and an assembly person from the state relayed information after speaking to someone at the Department of Transportation, saying that the letter concerning speed study should not have gone out. The state will continue to do the traffic studies. And so what I would like to do, and what I'd like the board to authorize me to do, is to write another letter to the state requesting a reduction in the speed on Winchell Mountain, and to distribute the letter, widely to the county executive, county public works department, as well as the state, and see if we can get that going without expending $3,000 at this time. So if I could have a motion to authorize me to write a letter, again requesting a speed study, or rather, not a speed study, a reduction in the speed limit on Winchell Mountain. I appreciate it.
So move.
Yeah.
Second.
Ralph seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is revisions to the town of Northeast sign law. And I think it's the Solar, Wind, and Sign Committee has been at work on this. Young I know, among others, has worked on this, and what we are discussing today is the revisions to the sign law of 2009, I believe is the date of the last one. So maybe, Yeoman, you could just describe to us the ways in which this new draft is different from the existing sign law.
Okay, let me, first of all, pass around for people. You should have received Warren's draft, and I am passing around a version which contains simply a few corrections. I wouldn't say corrections, but let's say changes. And I'm also passing around a memorandum to the town board about the sign law, and finally, I'll give you those to you, Warren, a comparison, which simply takes the existing sign law and cross-references to the new sign law. I should start by saying that our brief was very limited. It was merely to look at the ways in which the existing sign law might be in conflict with the various constitutional doctrines on sign laws, and that's what we did. Therefore, we did not look at any issue relating to the nature of the signs, the size of the signs, the appearance of the signs, and so on and so forth in the town northeast. It is contemplated in the comprehensive plan that will be looked at some point in conjunction with the review of the zoning law in its entirety. So, I'm now going to borrow, since I handed out all my copies, I'm going to borrow from George. The major changes that we made, which are, by the way, quite limited, because whenever, I assume it's Warren who did it, so he's to be complimented, the 2009 sign law, there are very few content restrictions in the sign law. For example, with respect to business signs, they talk about size and location and things like that, but they don't have any restrictions on content. And that's the issue that you run up against with a sign law, which is when you seek to restrict content. The two issues are really if you seek to restrict content or the speaker, that is, who is the person who is speaking about something. So one thing I would like to say, first of all, there were some sections, as you will see, which gave special preference to certain institutions, such as churches, civic institutions, and so on. We struck those because we did not see how you could, we didn't see any way to keep them or keep some version of them and stay within the constitutional parameters. So that's one of the things we did. One of the issues that we also, one of the other things that we did was we put a requirement that no signs can be placed on town property, on public property, but I shouldn't say public property, I should say town property. The town of Northeast has at least 4 kinds of public property in it. One of them is the town property, and that would include the right-of-ways of town roads. The second is, of course, the village, which has its own sign law. And then the third and the fourth are state and county rights of way, which are, and there's a complication here because Route 44 is in fact a U.S. highway. So conceivably, there is some sort of federal regulation that deals with that. But for the most part, the signs which we all see as we drive around Northeast, first of all, during the political season, are political signs, which are for the most part located on either county or state highways. That is, they're either on Route 199 or Route 22 or Route 44, and then a few on town highways. We have provided, as I said, that you cannot put a sign on a town highway, which would, or town road, which, for example, would mean, where I live, Charlie Hill Road, if you can't put a sign in the right-of-way. Now, I will tell you that it would be my recommendation that the town zoning officer, who has never spent any time enforcing any laws anyway, such as this, leave these completely alone. But that's another issue. But at least we provided that you can't put signs of any kind, including political signs, on town property. The one thing we also provided is that everybody is entitled to have one sign on their property of a certain size, of whatever nature. And the point is that yard signs are a method of communicating, which are very important. To give you an example of repeal the SAFE Act is a good example of signs which you've all seen around. Clearly, you need to be permitted to make to express your opinion on something like that. So we permitted one sign. And there are obvious, people can say, you can think of all kinds of issues which that raises, but at least that, that does something, or gives the, people something. Let's see what else I had. Okay, I think that's really it. And there are a couple of, if you look at the memo, you will see, and this is, the town board needs to make some decisions. For example, the town board, we have slightly expanded the range of flags which someone can fly or have on their land. There is an argument that you should, in fact, simply say that a person can have one flag of any nature, because now we say, I think, civic, religious, or political flags. But you can make an argument that that is too severe a restriction, and in fact, you should simply permit someone to make fly a flag of any sort. And an example would be the Trump flag, which happens to be in the village, so we don't have to worry about it. But, shouldn't someone, if you're going to permit flags, shouldn't someone be able to put up a political flag of that sort? But that's an issue that we've flagged, as it were, and the town board can decide. So that's it. I would like to also acknowledge Julie and Lance and Ralph and Ray Osofsky, who are the other members of the town Sign, Solar, and Wind Committee, who have at least gotten one law enacted, the solar law, and we hope these amendments. But I would also, let me end by saying, by repeating what I said at the beginning, which is, this law is going to need to be looked at extensively when the town reviews the zoning law, which, as I say, that review is contemplated by the comprehensive plan, because there are all kinds of issues which we all can think about the Boulevard District or the area north on 22 or south on 22, where it's not only signs but other things we all need to think about before we can decide, what is the exact right thing to do. So,
No.
do I have any questions?
Yeah, so is it, when you talked about striking out the exception for churches and so on and so forth, is that essentially just trying to treat everyone equally?
Everyone equally.
Right, that's my understanding of that. Making
Yes.
no differentiation then between a church, let's
Yes.
say, and the drugstore.
Precisely.
Right. And I'm just interested to know, with political signs, obviously there's the election season political signs. My understanding from what you're saying is that they're probably all somehow in violation of something, but that's,
Actually,
they're all over the state, so.
I had a conversation, I've had conflicting conversations with people in the Department of State, and I spoke with a woman named Paula Gilbert, who takes the view that a provision which I cite in my memo of the state highway law and an equivalent provision of the county highway, of the state highway law, which applies to county roads, prohibit political signs in the right-of-way. I'm not sure I agree with that reading, but my own view is the following, which is, by prohibiting signs on town property, we have done as much as we can reasonably do to sort of limit them and deal with them. Frankly, I think that if I were the town supervisor, I would not be recommending to the zoning enforcement officer, when election season comes around, that he goes around and starts picking up political signs. For one thing, there are two areas where, as far as I can tell, you're likely to end up in litigation. One of them is if you interfere with political issues or political signs, and the other is if you interfere with the rights of religious organizations, because there are not-for-profit organizations which devote their time to litigating these issues. And so frankly, I think with political signs, when people end up with 5 political signs because they're supporting 5 candidates on their lawn, even though we've only permitted 1 in the law, I would not recommend that you have the zoning enforcement officer going out and trying to pick up those signs or issue violations. But that's only an opinion. Warren, what do you think?
I agree. I try to enforce those laws. It's fraught with peril. Every once in a while, you get a real abuse that you have to crack down on. But one of the other issues is the trying to define what the right-of-way is. And there's no set rule. Village and town roads are mostly user roads. And the width of the road is defined by the paved section of the road. And then there's a couple of feet on each side that's allowed where the town, the village maintain those roads. And it's always a difficult concept to deal with as to what's the town or the village right of way. And we have found in some other municipalities, when we try to take these signs down, there's hell to pay. And, but I think you did a good job on the law. I did not write the 2009 law. That was done by a committee. I reviewed it, and helped with that. But the issue of discrimination and content-based discrimination is just ever-changing because of the recent case from the Supreme Court. And every day you pick up a law article, and there's another case regarding the enforcement of sign laws. They're very, very difficult. It's a very difficult area of the law, and it's going to have to play itself out for the next few years. And hopefully, when we get to do the total zoning revision, we'll have a little bit more clarity as to what the Supreme Court expected of us in that recent decision, and we'll be able to better ensure that our laws are non-discriminatory and are not content-based. But you did a good job, and I think you reformatted the law in a nice way too. That was helpful. So thanks for the commitment.
Generally speaking, I'd say that the public has been very good about removing political signs immediately after an election.
Well, did I mention your name on the...
Yes, you did. Okay. No, but seriously, it's nice to see that the day after our elections, most of these signs disappear, and that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm chair of the Democratic Committee in the town of Northeast. Edie Greenwood is chair of the Republican Committee. And I think we both make a real effort with the candidates, of course, to make sure that the signs do get removed. So I don't think it has been a problem. In my opinion, the problem, which is not one that is easy to deal with, is the problem with the spike signs, as they're called, or yard signs, which you see, for example, at the Triangle at 199 and 22, advertising various public services. But that's not, that's either state or county. I assume it's state land, actually. And so I'm not sure what we can do about that. But that's an issue which we've seen, or signs on telephone poles and so on, which by the way, is forbidden in this. So those, at least, we can take down.
Yeah, I was saying you did a great job, the committee did on the sign law, but one thing I would comment was if we aren't going to enforce the provision to having one sign on a property, I would think it'd be better to just remove that and allow, if folks want to put up 3 political signs supporting 3 different candidates on the property, I think they should be able to.
I don't disagree with that. The only reason to have one sign is, or to have a limitation such as that, is that there are other kinds of signs that people put up expressing their opinions, and maybe you don't want to have someone having 15 signs on their property, expressing views on 50 different issues. But I leave that to the town board. I agree with you that that's a difficult issue.
And we will be, of course, having a hearing on this law, so there's going to be plenty of opportunity for people to comment on things.
Yeah, and I want to repeat what I said previously, which is also there are some choices here in this law. So it is important that the town board members look at the law and the memos, because before they put forth the law to be approved by because there are some decisions I think that need to be made.
Right. Any other board member have a question on that? What we are doing today is simply receiving this draft law. And just to be a little bit more clear about it, rather than making changes in the existing sign law. This is actually a new sign law, which essentially replicates the previous sign law with those changes that you mentioned. And it may have been difficult for the word processor.
Difficult.
Warren, but my understanding then is that this is a proposed new town law.
Yeah, what we did was, I tried to draft the recommended changes from the committee by preparing a sign law which went point by point on each of the changes. And I realized that even I was getting confused as I read through it, and it was really not going to be understandable to the public. So the easiest thing to do was to repeal the old sign law by virtue of this, and then just recreate the new sign law with all the changes incorporated in there. And I think that's a lot more understandable. The public will understand what we did. The problem is that it's not exactly clear what's new and what's old unless you read the old sign law. So it's not like some of these things are new, it's just that it was much easier to incorporate them into a totally new sign law provision of the zoning law. So I hope people aren't confused by that, but if you take a look at the old law and try to make sense of it.
Yeah, let me just say that one of the documents that you have is really a cross-reference that goes from the old sign law to the new sign law and shows where the differences are and what has stayed the same. So if you look at that...
You did that in the memo.
Yeah, I did that in the memo, yeah.
And I did do it, the first draft I did, if you still have that.
Is that the one you sent us in
The long,
December?
originally, and you can take a look, that's also helpful. But this is the reconstituted sign law, but just people need to remember that all of this is not new.
Right.
Most of it is what's already in there reformatted.
Right. So what we are doing today, we have a resolution to do it, is simply to acknowledge the receipt of this, and we will be posting it on the town's website. We will try and post as much of the information that we've received from Young Arneson on the changes that it makes to the previous sign law. And then we will schedule a hearing on this, which we may want to move to the library annex, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest in it, which we will schedule in February. But at the moment, we have a resolution for us to approve. And I would like to ask our clerk if she would read that resolution.
Town Board of the Town of Northeast, resolution commencing the local law adoption process for local law of 2020 entitled, "A Local Law Amending Section 180-55 of the Town of Northeast Code." Whereas the Town Board appointed a zoning review committee consisting of Yon Arneson as chair, and Ralph Fideli, Lance Middlebrook, Greg Osowski, and Julie Schroeder as members to review the current provisions of Section 180-55 of the Town of Northeast Code relating to signs with a request that the committee make recommendations to the Town Board for revisions to the sign code to help ensure that the sign law was content neutral and consistent with the United States Supreme Court and New York State decisional law. And whereas the committee has reported back to the Town Board and to the attorney of the town with its recommendations, which included recommendation for a reformat of Section 180-55, and whereas the attorney to the town has drafted a local law amending Section 180-55 of the current town code by repealing the entire section and substituting in its place a new Section 180-55, which incorporates the recommendations of the committee, and whereas the Town Board has reviewed the local law and has determined that it is acceptable for commencing the local law adoption process, and whereas the Town Board has determined that this is a Type 2 action pursuant to seeker and not subject to environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby schedules a public hearing on the adoption of local law of 2020 for February of 2020 at 7:05 PM, and be it further resolved that the town clerk is hereby directed to send a copy of the said proposed local law to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development in accordance with the requirements of section 239-M of the general municipal law, and to the town planning board for its review and comments. And be it further resolved that the town clerk is hereby directed to post and publish notice of said public hearing as required by law, and to make available a copy of the proposed local law at the town clerk's office during regular business hours.
Okay, we would propose to have the hearing at the time of the town board's next board meeting, which is on February 13th.
February 15th.
This year. And we will, why don't we say at
7:05.
7:20.
Oh, you want
To
some?
give us time to
Okay.
get some other things out of the way.
Okay.
So there's a resolution, and is there a motion to approve this resolution? To accept this sign law and to begin the process of adoption?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, and this is, I think it needs to be a roll call.
Roll call vote. Supervisor Kenneth?
Aye.
Councilman Fidelli?
Aye.
Councilman Kaye?
Aye.
Councilman Midwood?
Aye.
Councilwoman Morrison?
Aye.
Okay, resolution is carried.
So do you want me to prepare the public hearing notice for you? or-
Sure. Thank you.
I'll send that on to you. And the address of the, so the library, right?
We'll get back to you with a location.
Okay, I'll give you the format, and then you can fill it in.
Right.
And if you need instructions on where to send this, just give me a call at the office. I'll go.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along on our agenda. The next item on the agenda is that the American Legion has requested time to address the board. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Once again, on behalf of the Post and Executive Committee of the Post, just would like to, once again, thank you for the opportunity to come and address you on what seems to be a very popular subject matter of late, signs. So, all right, so basically the objective of this evening, you're good, you're good. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4 for this side. 1, 2, 3 for this side. So for each of you, I have a copy for your review. So what I'll do first is I'll just kind of orientate you to the document, let you know what I have in here, and then I'll kind of skip. I'll be jumping around just a little bit. But I think it'll all make sense by the time I get to the end. All right, so the perfunctories at the beginning, table of contents, give you just a wee bit of background, nothing too crazy there, just the highlights, more of just the 30,000-foot overview, so to speak. Section 2 goes into the pertinent aspect of the current sign law that we're kind of looking at here. I kind of go into the Greenway connections just a little bit in Section 3. Section 4, what I've done is, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what I have here for you is this is the survey I'm talking about, so I'll be referring back to this in a few minutes. Section 5, I do the deep dive into what I've kind of summarized in Section 4, and I have gone over literally every sign ordinance in the entire county. But I'm giving you just the highlights. When we get to section, excuse me here, 6, no, not 6. Section 8 is basically what we're going to be kind of looking to propose. Section 9 is basically the conclusions of the executive committee, and then the rest is kind of self-explanatory. So let me first begin off with Section 4. So I basically looked at this from a couple things. One, I wanted to kind of consolidate a little bit more in depth for you what I had begun addressing last month, okay? So this is a little bit more of a deep dive, and to give you guys the black and white of what I was looking at. I looked at this in three ways. One, from the aspect of the Greenway Compact that we've been discussing for the last couple times I've been before you. Two, I then delve into what I am going to refer to as existing precedent throughout the rest of the county, okay? And then lastly, I'll close it out with what we're proposing the town board consider. So first off, the bottom line up front here on Section 4 of the document is that we have a majority of the towns, cities, and villages do allow, to one extent or another, the type of sign we currently have in front of the post. That being said, a lot of the towns do place some interesting restrictions here and there throughout their sign ordinances, okay, and how they go about looking at it. Again, as I said, in Section 5, I kind of go into the deep dive there of the municipalities within the county that permit it and how they have gone about addressing it, okay? The point here and the big takeaway is that, and as I'm sure is known by everybody here, every municipality in one way, shape, or form within Dutchess County is part of the Greenway Compact, okay? Yet, other municipalities within the county do permit it in one shape, form, or another, okay? So that's really the big takeaway of what I'm talking about here in Section 4, okay? There's different ways and different flavors on the constraint side, okay? What I then, when I get to the part where I'm going to talk to you through the proposal of how we're looking at adding to our current sign law, is kind of what I would summarize as the best of all worlds. All right, I took a look at what everybody else did, made a smash up together of what I think would be applicable, but with some appropriate restrictions thrown into it, okay? So, that's Section 4. Again, you know, as you can see, I have all the code references there for you, so, you know, you can make sure I am not, put it politely, BSing you. You know, you can go back to the source material yourself and look at it, okay? Okay. Okay, go ahead, flip the chart.
Sean, can I ask a question?
Shoot.
On Section 4.
Yes.
And I'm looking at Pine Plains.
Yep.
And it says here, if I'm reading this correctly, that the EMD sign is not allowed.
Correct.
Yet they do have a very large
And they have
sign, right?
a single exemption in their sign law that basically government property is completely exempt from all the sign laws in the town.
You're talking about the one at the lot?
At the school.
At the school. Yeah,
I mean, it's huge.
let me, can I just?
Yeah.
Because I'm the attorney for Pine Plain. The law had been, that we thought, was that school districts were exempt from the local zoning law
Right.
for any construction, including signs, which are, come under the supervision and approval of the New York State Department of Education.
Right.
So when they put that sign up, although it was in violation of the town sign law, they never came to the town for a permit, they just put the sign up.
Right.
And we had thought at that time that, we were told that they had, it was reviewed by the State Department of Education and was approved. there has been a recent decision from the 3rd Department, Appellate Division,
Bethlehem.
that says that that those signs are actually subject to local zoning. So.
Interesting, because there was
That
one,
sign may have to come down.
there was one section in there, in the Pine Plains law, and that's what when I read through it, I was like, okay, that must be how the school.
No, that wasn't it. The school just went ahead and.
They just went ahead, all right, well, I stand corrected.
And then promised to the town that it had been reviewed by the state education department and and we had thought, and that really was what the law was at that time, but this case has thrown a monkey wrench into that. So
Excellent.
we don't know if that sign is going to stay there.
No, you have fun with it.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it.
Well, anyway, like I said, I mean, that's when I read the Pine Plains ordinance, that's what I saw, and I made that assumption and connection, so. Okay, moving forward. Where was I, my train of thought here? Okay, yeah, the map. All right, so if you go back to I think it's your third to last page, again, I've provided the Hudson Valley, River Valley, and Greenway map there just for your personal edification. Again, as I referenced in the chart in section 4, Stanford is the only minority town within the county. As everybody else is part of the Greenway Compact community, Stanfordville is just a Greenway community. So, I was looking at their sign ordinances, and I thought that was the briefest ordinance in the county when it comes to signs. So, not a lot going on in Stanfordville. Again, I just provide that for your reference. But again, it goes back to reinforcing my point is in terms of what towns are doing what. All right, now I'm going to jump to section 9. And here I'm going to just kind of do a little bit of reading for the document, just this way everybody else can kind of follow along here. All right, so the conclusions of the Post-Executive Committee. Following our investigation into the sign ordinances of the municipalities that make up Dutchess County, the Post-Executive Committee of Military American Legion Post 178 has come to the following conclusions. In any of the sign laws, ordinances, or documents published by the New York State Greenway Compact that we have examined or found, no explicit restrictions or bans placed on any municipality to prohibit any style sign within New York State, Dutchess County, or any municipality or jurisdiction that is a signatory to the compact. B, the Post does acknowledge that the published documents and guidance does actively discourage some signs while encouraging others. To quote once again from section 3 of this document, the Greenway Compact aims to encourage a conformity among the participating communities, quote, by relying on incentives and guidelines, not rigid requirements, and I have, of course, added the emphasis there. C, by examining the ordinances of the town of Northeast, the Post noted the flexibility built into the town's ordinances that pertain to the compact as outlined both in sections 26.2 and 26.3 of the Code of the Town of Northeast. 2, and I'll go ahead and quote 26-2, the proposed amendments, it states, quote, within 90 days of receipt of any such proposal from the Greenway Council, the town board of the town of Northeast shall determine by resolution whether to accept or to reject such proposed amendment. Any proposed amendment so accepted shall be considered an amendment of the Greenway connections as adopted by the town of Northeast. Any proposed amendment rejected by the town board will not be considered to be an amendment of the Greenway connections for the town of Northeast, and notice of such rejection shall promptly be provided to the Greenway Council, end quote. The Post interprets this aspect of the law, and before I continue, again, I'm not a lawyer, nor do I play one on TV, okay? I'm just a historian by training, and I'm just looking at this as a layman, okay?
Good start, though.
All right, well, we'll see how we finish here. The Post interprets this aspect of the law to interpret that any amendments proposed by the Greenway Council are non-binding unless so adopted by the governing body of a participating municipality, in this case, the town board of the town of Northeast. Section 26.3, consistency, it states, quote, it is the stated policy of the town of Northeast that, to the extent that the town amends its current or enacts new land use laws and regulations, such new amended laws and regulations where appropriate will be designed to be consistent with Greenway connections. The Post notes the inclusion of the phrase where appropriate in this section. The Post strongly believes that the inclusion of our proposal as outlined in Section 8 of this document is very appropriate and will ultimately prove beneficial to the town. D, as identified in Section 4 of this document, of the 2 cities, 20 towns, and 8 villages that make up Dutchess County, both cities, 2 towns, LaGrange and Poughkeepsie, and no villages explicitly permit EMD-style signs within their municipal boundaries. Of the following that expressly prohibit an EMD-style sign, 4 towns, Dover, Fishkill, Paulding, and Wappingers, and 2 villages, Fishkill and Rhinebeck, allow exemptions to one degree or another. 2, it should be noted that every municipality identified as permitting an EMD-style sign outright or by exemption is a member of the Greenway Compact. E, based on the above observations, the Post therefore concludes that a successful argument cannot be made to prohibit any specific style sign solely based on the Greenway Compact. F, the Post further concludes that based on the existing precedent from other municipalities within Dutchess County that are also Greenway Compact communities, it is appropriate for the town board of the town of Northeast to make the appropriate changes to local law to permit EMD-style signs within the town. G, the Post has identified further precedent to restrict specific styles of signage to specific types of organizations or corporations. 2, the town, G1, the Town of Southeast sign ordinance, section 138-75B, subparagraph 14 states, quote, except for theaters, gas stations, schools, nonprofit organizations, and religious institutions, changeable copy signs are prohibited, end quote. Now, the changeable copy sign was what we previously had in front of the Post. I'll be getting back to what, where I'm going to drive into this here in just a second. 2, the proposed addition to our town sign ordinance as outlined in Section 8 of this document would look to apply this type of restriction so as to address the previously expressed concerns that our community would turn into quote-unquote Las Vegas. Now, let me back up here. If we flip to the previous section, Section 8. Okay. This is what we're requesting that the town include into the sign ordinance. And I'll just go ahead and read it verbatim for everybody's, and for the audiences. Go ahead and flip. I think I have it in there. Oh no, you're already there. I'm sorry. I stand corrected. All right, so this is what we're requesting. LED community message board. Now, where I'm stealing that phrase is actually, I lifted and shifted that right out of the town of Dover. Go look at town of Dover. They did some interesting things down there. And I haven't included that in this document. LED community message board. That's what I'm saying we're going to call this. Permanent ground-mounted sign for use not only by nonprofit organizations, schools, religious institutions, or government agencies. Okay, that little phrase there. That's what I'm stealing, borrowing, however you want to phrase this, from the town of Southeast. Light emitting diode LED displays / electronic variable message / electronic messaging display signs allow for the display of information including events, time, services at a location or building. Electronic variable message signs are permitted provided that content is static, specifically flashing displays, scrolling displays, displays of continually changing text or images are prohibited. 1. Manner of electronic messaging display. No more than 4 electronic messages, excluding time, temperature information, may be displayed during a single 24-hour day. The minimum duration for each electronic message is no less than 15 seconds. Any change of message shall be completed immediately without pauses, and all parts of the message shall change simultaneously. This constraint may be waived by the town supervisor in the event of a specific need by the town or upon the request of an appropriate law enforcement agency for immediate public safety use. That last sentence there is the only innovative part that I could not find in existing precedents anywhere else. Okay? Again, I would just like to remind the board of one of the points we made back in October, where at one point when we had the BOLO for the escaped convict from up in Pittsfield, that the state police had at one point, we were considering the use of the Post as a command post for the state police effort in this area. and had specifically approached us about potentially using the sign in the event that their search would be unsuccessful in the immediate area. So what I'm basically saying here is that, you know, the regulations as, you know, I'm outlining here would stand in place except for basically a public emergency. I mean, that's basically the gist of what I'm saying here. All right. 2, size, no such sign.
Could you repeat what you just said? I didn't hear it.
Which part?
You said
What I'm reading or what I
something would
just said?
something would stay in place except for...
Okay, so basically what I'm saying is that what I'm proposing, or what the post is proposing for the regulation here, is that when it comes to the EMD sign, that basically upon the request of an appropriate law enforcement agency or the town supervisor for an immediate public safety usage, that we're going to waive, for instance, the restriction on a 15-second display. Okay, because now you're looking to, like in the case of a BOA, or an Amber Alert for that matter, okay? If we're looking to really push that information out very quick, okay, we're going to want to go a little faster than 15 seconds, okay? That's basically what I'm getting at there.
Thank you, I just didn't hear you.
Okay. 2, size. No such sign shall exceed 36 square feet, including the structure that the sign is mounted on, with a maximum height of 10 feet, including structure. The LED lettering may not exceed 15 inches in height. Signs may be double-sided. All right. Just for your reference, I think it's the 4th to last page in the document for you. I do have the dimensions of what the sign looks like there, okay? And if it would so help, I can send this all to you digitally, so just let me know if you would like me to give you guys a digital copy. I'm happy to provide it, okay? I mean, it might be a little easier to look at for those of us, especially for those of us who have to wear spectacles. Our sign would be in compliance with this aspect, okay? Setbacks. All ground-mounted signs shall be located a minimum of 5 feet setback from the street right-of-way. At intersections, no sign shall be in the sight triangle as defined by this ordinance. 3, color. All LED numerals shall be only green, white, or red in color, and LED background screen may only be black, okay? 4, illumination. The sign must not exceed a maximum illumination of 5,000 nits during daylight hours and maximum illumination of 500 nits between dusk and dawn as measured from the sign's face at maximum brightness. All right, this is where I need to kind of just let you know. All right, so right now, our sign needs a little bit of an upgrade, okay? There is basically, it's not really an upgrade, it's a replacement part. There's a part on there that we would actually need to fix, okay? And that's basically the actual sensor. Now, the sign we have can be controlled in 2 manners, okay? One is from program-based, one is ambient light-based, okay? I think it would be easier to go with the sensor method, but there would be the programmable backup in there. So for some reason, if the sensor fails, when the sign is programmed, it is programmed with date and time, okay? Built into that program is basically that fancy chart you can look up online that says when it's sunrise and sunset, and the sign would bounce back and forth during that time, okay? So that's the one thing where we would need to fix that part in order to make the sensor aspect of this work. However, our sign does conform to that standard. That standard there is literally lifted again out of Dover, okay? So that's pretty much the standard. Now, nits versus, foot candles. Nits is the measurement of light as it is emitted from a source. Okay, so for perspective here, the sun is 6,500 nits, okay, at maximum illumination on a clear, bright summer day, okay? Your fancy new flat screen TV is 1,500. Okay, so that kind of gives you a little bit of a comparable understanding of what we're talking about in real world terms. Okay, during the day 5,000 is more than acceptable. It's not crazy. 500 at night is, again, it's going to be dimmer than your new TV. Okay, that you got hanging up on your wall. 5, require automatic brightness, dimmer control, key to ambient light levels. That's the sensor I was just telling you about. 6, the owner of the EMD sign must register within 90 days of installation with Amber Alert and be required to display all Amber Alert messages when requested to do so. Okay? That aspect is pretty uniform just about among every town and village that has an EMD style sign. The only times I did not see that in anyone else's code is if they were permitting the signs, like for instance, when you pass a bank and they only had time and temperature displays. That's the only time you don't see that aspect of the ordinance thrown in anywhere else in the county. No EMD sign shall include any audio message. That's pretty uniform among everybody. 1 EMD is permitted per site. 9, a maximum distance of 1,000 feet shall be required between an EMD and another EMD. 10, all EMD signs shall contain a default mechanism that will cause the sign to revert immediately to a blank screen if the sign malfunctions. That's pretty uniform in all programmable signs of this type. EMD signs are not permitted as wall, window, or projecting signs. Again, that's a pretty standard ordinance that most communities have. And 12, specifically distancing requirements from areas zoned for residential use and/or prohibited orientation of sign faced toward an area zoned for residential use. Okay? So that's what we're basically proposing for you guys to consider. Now I'll jump back to, fast forward to one section, and I'll go to part 2 of section 10 here. Under conclusions. The Post-Executive Committee believes that the proposed addition to our town sign ordinance in section 8 of this document meets the needs and interests of all concerned parties and does so in the following manner. 2A, by utilizing existing precedents within the state to restrict who may petition to have this specific style sign. Again, I would like to refer back to what the town of Southeast has done in their sign ordinance. B, by placing restriction on how content may be displayed, requiring a dark background, restricting what colors may be employed, towns of Dover, Fishkill, LaGrange, and Poughkeepsie. C, requiring signs registered with Amber Alert, again, LaGrange and Poughkeepsie, and actually a lot of other sign ordinances throughout the state also require this. D, utilizing existing precedent to restrict the number of EMDs within a given area, again, within the county, LaGrange and Poughkeepsie also do this. E, restricting how EMDs may be utilized or employed within the municipality, and again, I cite those towns that also have that aspect of the restriction. And finally, F, by empowering the town supervisor with the appropriate authority to waive display constraints in order to meet a specific community need. Example, public safety, man-made or natural disaster, weather hazard, etc. Okay? That is basically what we're proposing as our way forward and our solution. All right, to our entertaining quandary. I know I just threw a lot at you, okay? So, questions at this time?
I'd just like to start by saying that it's clear that this represents an enormous amount of work on your part and research. And it is definitely a lot for us to start to digest. We're going to be looking at the sign laws that exist today, which we just received.
Yep.
And all of your, all of this work. There's a lot here.
Yeah, there is.
It's
yeah.
impressive.
It's it was a very entertaining exercise going through this. I have to admit, I learned a lot, but I also realized that after the last meeting here that, and especially some of the looks I was getting, I almost felt like everybody was thinking I was slightly mad. So hence why I went back and decided to put this in black and white for everybody to consider. To the point of the Bethlehem Amendment that you brought up last time, Ralph, the way I read Chapter 26, Section 3 of our town ordinance, okay, I really did interpret that as the big escape clause, okay, in terms of any restrictions that may, that the town may or may not have adopted in the past. Once the town looks at looking at its whatever land use regulations that it's looking at and considering, Basically, it's up to the town whether it wants to still conform or not to any previous agreements it's made. So again, when I looked at what the town itself currently has on the books, what the Greenway has said, again, these are guides, not necessarily prohibitions, okay? So there is a lot of inherent flexibility both in what I've read from the Greenway side of the equation as well as what I'm currently seeing in existing town ordinance, all right? That being said, I think there is at least should be acknowledged that there is the spirit of what is trying to be done. And I think the restrictions that we're proposing on how the signage can be utilized, displayed, who may have it, so on and so forth, at least would be in keeping with the spirit of what the Greenway is trying to do at the end of the day. So I think what we're proposing here would be a healthy balance and compromise between the two, and kind of let us all move forward and get a good night's sleep. So, again, any questions?
Is everything on the board up there in this?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yep. And again, if you guys would like and gals would like a digital copy of this, I'd be more than happy to furnish it. So,
Okay.
too easy to be done.
Well, we got a lot of homework.
Yes, you do.
Any other members of the board have questions for Sean? No?
Seeing none, all right, very good. I will gladly get out of your hair.
Can the public get a copy of your stuff, Sean?
Let me talk it over with the Post Executive Committee. If they're okay with that, I will hang it between our Post Facebook page and our Post website.
Say again?
Our Post Facebook page and our Post website. I'll throw something up there if the Post Executive Committee is able to allow me to do that.
Okay.
I'm just a humble post adjutant. I do nothing except what they tell me to do.
End of story.
End of story. I have no authority. So,
All right.
all right.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Okay. Next item on our agenda, for those who are going to stay, is to approve and adopt the standard workday and reporting resolution for elected and appointed officials. This is a standard form which the state, New York State local retirement system uses to record people's hours worked for eventually for their pension. So this is something we approve every year, and I would welcome a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. All right, now we come to the really fun part, which is the supervisor's financial report. This is where I get to report that portion of the information which has always eluded me in the past. Okay. We're going to start with the budget adjustment. And this is essentially where we are, we have a budget. This is actually making adjustments to last year's budget where there were some adjustments needed. In the A fund, which is the general town-wide fund, an expense increase of $6,782, less an expense decrease of $1,046, and less a revenue increase of $5,736, with a net of zero. Could I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Second is the B fund, which is the B fund, for those who don't know, that is the town outside of the village. This is for an expense increase of $133 minus a revenue increase of $133 with a net of 0. And motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And lastly, with the DB fund, which is the highway fund, an expense increase of $10,244 less an expense decrease of $10,244. Do I have a motion to accept that adjustment?
So moved.
Lana made the motion. Ralph
Second.
seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, now we get to the abstracts. The abstracts, this took me a while to understand what the abstracts are. The abstracts are simply the bills which the town has received. And this is getting permission to pay these bills that have been reviewed and signed off on by 3 members of the town board. For the special abstract dated December 20, 2019, totaling $11,561.59, broken down as follows. The A fund, $3,655.10. The DB fund, $7,758.36. Payroll T&A, $148.13. Could I have a motion to accept the special abstract?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I have to sign this one. Okay. Pass this around. Okay. This is an abstract dated December 31, 2019, totaling $63,720.42, broken down as follows. For the A fund, $6,430.21. The B fund, $1,984.13. The DB fund, $46,536.26. Capital projects H1, $5,454.82. And the T&A2 escrow, $3,315. Do I have a motion to accept that escrow?
So moved.
Motion by Ralph.
Second.
Second by John Midwood. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, here's this for you. And I have an abstract dated January 9th, 2020, totaling $36,091.13, broken down as follows. The A fund, $32,788.76. The B fund, $969.67. The DB fund, $2,212.70. And the Water District SW1, $120. Could I have a motion to accept that abstract?
So moved.
Motion by Ralph,
Second.
second by John Midwood. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, and there, that, if you want to go. It was one of my goals as in becoming a town supervisor to make this process of approving the financials of the board less opaque. I haven't gotten there yet. I'm going to be working on it. Okay. I would like to schedule an executive session for the purpose of medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation relating to appointment, promotion, demotion, discipline, or removal after, towards the end of our meeting, after our comment period. But we won't be needing a warrant for that, so I just wanted to make that note. General comment period.
And
You're
then
welcome.
voucher committee.
Oh, I'm sorry, we have a voucher committee. Thank you. Voucher committee for February of 2020 would be Lana Morrison and George Kay. You thought you got away from it? Okay, we have a general comment period. Anybody who has comments? Tom Parrott.
Yes, after the Legion Post's really impressive and thoughtful presentation, what happens next? You review it, I suppose, and then is there some action required of you?
We received this proposed new law, which is replacing the old law, as you heard, with some small changes. We have scheduled a hearing on it. That is the next step. That will be a public hearing.
That's not on what the Legion has presented.
It's on anything connected with it. So
Okay.
what the Legion is talking about concerns our sign law.
Was that February 13th?
That would be correct.
So,
We still have to find a location for it because, as you can tell, it's likely to be more than this building can hold.
I understand. So it's an open-ended meeting, subject is the sign law.
Subject would be the sign law.
Okay.
It would be a public hearing.
And just a quick follow-up question. This is all leading into zoning. Is there a plan by the board to proceed with revision of the zoning law? What's that process, if you had a chance to think about it?
The board hasn't really had a chance to talk about it yet. However, it is the logical next step following the implementation, the acceptance, and approval of the comprehensive plan to form the zoning review committee. And that is a committee that we will be looking to, populate with residents of the town who are, interested and have some perspective and background on zoning issues. And that's something that I would like actually to start moving on reasonably quickly.
Thank you.
Sam?
Yeah. Sam Lassell, and I'm an advocate for the Northeast Community Center as well as on their advisory board. And I just wanted to give a short update on the Tri-Town Coalition for Housing. Because we're being reorganized as of two nights ago, Tuesday. And we're working on having monthly meetings at a local level, each town, the Pine Plains, Amenia, and Northeast, and the village of Milton. So local meetings on the various subjects that have to do with trying to find ways to improve the affordable housing issue, the workforce housing issue. And then have general education meetings once a quarter. And the first general education one will be on the 28th of this month on the subject of part-time rentals, Airbnb and such, zoning implications of that, which will be presented by the county planning. And I would like to suggest also that we talk to the whole board at one point. Elizabeth Celaya and Hudson River Housing have been very involved with this and kind of orchestrating the next steps. The Northeast Community Center is interested but not committed yet because that isn't in their mission in terms of housing, but they are definitely supportive and know the need. So I sort of speak on behalf of them in terms of trying to get more people involved with the various elements. And the various elements are what's available now and how we might acquire some and renovate them for renovations, communicating better with the community, all of the community who need housing as well as just people to be informed, and also then finding financial opportunities, not only through the state funding sources, but also other sources for development that would promote this at a faster rate than one house at a time in each town. And the sewer issue is obviously the one that comes up primarily in terms of doing things in any one of these municipalities. So I will have more information on it after we have our first working group, which is February 4th of next month, and invite anybody to participate, and we'll try to get some communication out for the specific people who have shown some interest in the past, as well as solicit anybody to respond to me or to Hudson River Housing if they're interested in joining any of the working groups when they're better defined. Thank you.
Just one comment on that, or two actually. One is that the Village of Millerton, at their next board meeting, which I believe is on January 21, will be receiving a report from their engineer feasibility study for a wastewater treatment system for the village. They've got a long way to go before they put a shovel in the ground, but it is the next step. And this has been worked on for quite a while, I've been told by the mayor, and that will be presented at their board meeting. What was the date of the informational session about?
28th.
That's about Airbnb and
Yeah,
so on and so
zoning
forth.
for parties.
It was something that was discussed at a recent meeting of the Supervisors and Mayors Association of Dutchess County at some length. Some towns, bigger towns than ours, have some real issues with short-term rentals. Sometimes they've been rented for big parties, and neighbors have found people
Right.
sleeping on their lawns and cars parked on their lawns and so on and so forth. I don't think we have that problem here, but it has been an issue, and there was a lively, long discussion between the different town supervisors and mayors about that. So I think that session will be.
And it's
very
come
interesting.
up in each town, that's
Yeah.
why it's being the first meeting of the educational section.
Yeah.
I also want to mention that this is in response to, coincidentally, with a comprehensive plan for each one of the towns, actually, but in Village and the town of Millerton, we have a section on housing, and we would, I think, and they suggested some kind of committee be set up to deal with that in the future as an implementation plan. And I would suggest that this is the group, we are the group, the Tri-Town, and then these working groups locally would be the appropriate meeting group, rather than having another group established. So we can make that recommendation formally, but that could, as the comprehensive plan moves along.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I would like to have a resolution a motion to go into executive session for the purposes which I just read to you.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Great, thank you, John.